The danger of hatred is such, as somebody said, you start burning books and then you continue burning people. We sort of have to convince our people, meaning the Jews, that every one of us is an ambassador, and to help them, give them tools, what to say to their non-Jewish neighbors, to open up the discussion. Many Jews are not doing it. They are scared, not scared, they're reluctant to talk about anti-Semitism. But I think we should talk it completely openly to our friends, to our neighbors, to our co-workers, and it should be almost like a project to combat it, but we can't combat it in silence. We have to be vocal, and we have to learn that from those people who are anti-Semitic are very vocal. They're being so vocal, we should be vocal as well, because then it takes away the fright. And if you keep it undercover, it's worse, it festers. We should be out there. I speak about anti-Semitism everywhere.
The history of the Jews in Iran begins about 2,700 years ago, when the first community of known Jews was taken to Iran. They are commonly believed to be one of the 10 lost tribes. Some years after that, at 539 BCE, on October 29th, 539 BCE to be exact, Cyrus the Great, the founder of the Achaemenid dynasty, liberated Babylon and gave Jews the permission to go back to Israel and rebuild the Second Temple.
The advent and arrival of Islam in Iran in the 7th century Common Era changed circumstances somewhat. As was the case across the Middle East, all non-Muslims became dhimmis, residents who paid a special tax and lived under certain restrictions. The situation for Jews worsened in the 16th century, when the Safavid dynasty made the Shiite creed the dominant form of Islam in Iran. Fatwas made life for all non-Shiites quite difficult.
They could not, for example, participate in the trade of edible goods because, fruits and vegetables and meats carried this pollution, so Muslims could no longer consume the foods that were touched by Jews. And as a result, this created a certain path forward in history for the Jews of Iran. They went into antique trades, they went into carpet trades, they went into work of textiles, they became musicians. And for the following 500 years, these restrictions kind of guided the way the Jews of Iran lived in that country, even though they had been there for thousands of years previously.
What is not as well known is how many Jews still live and thrive in Iran. Before the 1979 Islamic Revolution, there were nearly 100,000 Jews in Iran. Today, Israeli sources say the population numbers less than 10,000, while the regime and Iran's Jewish leaders say it's closer to 20,000. Regardless, Iran's Jewish community remains the largest in the Middle East, outside Israel. To be sure, the Constitution adopted in 1906 is still in place, nominally, and it still includes Jews as a protected religious minority. Jews in Iran have synagogues, access to kosher meat, and permission to consume wine for Shabbat, despite a national ban on alcohol. There's also a Jewish representative in Iran's parliament, or Majlis. But all women and girls, regardless of religion, are required to wear a veil, according to the Islamist dress code. And Jews are pressured to vote in elections at Jewish-specific ballot stations so the regime can monitor their participation. Zionism is punishable by death. And after October 7th, the regime warned its Jewish citizens to sever contact with family and friends in Israel or risk arrest. They also can't leave. Iranian law forbids an entire Jewish nuclear family from traveling abroad at the same time. At least one family member, usually the father, must remain to prevent immigration. Scholars say since the Islamic Revolution, most Jews who have left Iran have landed in Los Angeles or Long Island, New York. Still, more Jews of Iranian descent.
Did you know that Jews also fought in the American Revolution? Meet Colonel Mordechai Shaftal, the highest-ranking Jewish officer in the Continental Army during the American Revolution. Born in Savannah in 1735, just 2 years after his parents arrived as some of the first Jewish settlers in Georgia, Mordechai was running his own business by 17 and buying land at 18. When the fight for independence began, he joined the Sons of Liberty and became a key leader in Georgia's Patriot movement. In 1777, he was made a colonel. A year later, the British invaded Savannah. Sheftal stayed behind to protect his son, was captured, and despite being mocked and degraded by British soldiers who smeared pork grease on his utensils, knowing he kept kosher, he still refused to betray the American cause. After the war, he helped rebuild Jewish life in Savannah and Philadelphia, right down to making sure kosher meat was available. He died in 1797 and was buried in the Jewish cemetery he had donated to his community. Mordechai Sheftal's life is an important reminder. From the very beginning, Jews have fought for this country, believed in its promise, and helped shape its freedom.
Empowering Jews, celebrating being Jewish. I am Jonah Platt, host of Being Jewish with Jonah Platt, the new weekly podcast. I am here at the AJC Global Forum because it's a great place to meet Jews from around the world, to learn, to get critical information from important voices on a number of topics affecting the Jewish community. And I'm having a blast so far. Oh gosh, what doesn't make me proud to be Jewish? The Jews are like literally the most resilient people in history of humanity. I'm so proud of Jewish values. I mean, the way that Jews have thought so minutely about every little aspect of life and how to live it the best way that creates the most value for others and puts the most goodness into the world is a beautiful thing.
Being Jewish on campus today, I feel like I've had two very different experiences. I used to go to a college where anti-Semitism was very rampant, and I was very scared to be Jewish and felt as though I lost the majority of my friends for it. Where now at WashU, most of my friends are Jewish and my non-Jewish friends are incredibly supportive, and it's a very thriving Jewish community with over 200 to 300 students at Chabad every Shabbat, and just a place where I can unapologetically be Jewish and